You're officially, I, Parker McGee,
am not going to Texas.
And welcome back to another episode of When I Grow Up, where we are still following the story of Parker McGee, who dropped out of college in hopes of becoming a TSR Concrete Coatings owner, the largest residential concrete coating company in the nation and undisputed champion of the known universe. Parker, this is a special episode because today we're finding out how Texas was. We know that you decided that you wanted to move to Texas, and that's where you wanted to sow your seed, open up the TSR Austin, Texas location. You had the cowboy hat. You already were invested in that, and today we get to find out how the trip was, if it met your expectations, if it didn't meet your expectations, and we're going to get a little bit into Rochester. So all this and more as we continue on with the episode. Parker, why don't you tell us how Austin was?
It was fun. We went with two of my buddies. We did a lot of exploring, looked at a bunch of different areas, so it was fun. We found the perfect warehouse. It was a little bit out of Jeff's budget, so that was unfortunate.
Out of Jeff's budget? Are you supposed to be running this thing?
No, but it was fun. We got to experience a lot of different stuff. It was pricey, about a $700 trip for 2 days, so that kind of hurt the pocket. But no, it was awesome. But at the same time, me and Jeff talked about it a little bit, and financially, I think it's a better decision to maybe go somewhere else. So all the people that asked me in the past week, how was Texas? I thought you moved there. No, I haven't, and I'm actually not going there at all.
You're not going there?
No.
So say that again one more time for the fans. You're officially, I, Parker McGee,
am not going to Texas.
Wow.
There's a lot of blonde-haired, blue-eyed ladies that you just crush their dreams.
Yeah, we can only hope.
So you talk with Jeff about this. I assume Jeff has some more detailed, and I know you are generally a man of a lot of words, but I feel like Jeff may have some more detailed insight into why this decision.
Yeah, there's multiple factors that play into it. One, I think Parker saw Austin, Texas in a magazine or something, and then immediately decided he was going to go there. To which I allowed him to play out that fantasy. And ultimately, I kind of, I knew in the back of my mind when he picked Austin, Texas from a National Geographic magazine that it probably wasn't as feasible for him as he thought it was going to be. Although the trip was fun nonetheless, right?
Yeah.
Great to visit. Potentially not the greatest place to set up shop. Not that we won't someday, but there's a lot of things going on in our industry right now that make it a lot harder to do that. Also, I don't think your mom was very thrilled with the shooting that happened the week after you were there in the exact same spot you were at.
Yeah, that was a little freaky after we got back and we're looking at the news.
So what happened?
I think it was literally a week after on Saturday on 6th Street, and that's where we were. And it was like 13 people shot or something. Yeah, missed us by a week.
So your mom is the reason you're not moving to Texas?
No.
Well, for the shooting reason, but then potentially Parker can't move away from his mom too far.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
There you have it, folks.
No, but in our industry, since 2017, whenever we started doing this, it's been literally one supply chain issue after another. And, Parker's been around with us for the last, at least the last year, but really a year and a half of, when he was in marketing, that he was able to kind of witness a lot of the stuff that we deal with firsthand. And supply chain has been nothing but a problem since 2017, and I think some of that has to do with our size and our exponential growth, that we've been experiencing. And I think that some suppliers, whether it be vacuums or grinders or whatever, everybody wants our business, right? Until they have it. And then they go, whoa, you didn't tell me, you're going to order 35 vacuums, or our guy that does grinders, which by the way, Jake from Twin City Rotary has just been absolutely incredible to work with. But, I asked him, I said, hey, how many of those big Lavina grinders did you sell last year? He's like, I sold six brand new ones last year. And he was pretty proud of it. And then I was like, how many did we buy from you this like last month and a half? And he was like, 10. You know, so
Wow.
we have any person that we purchase from, we have a pretty large impact on their business. And where we get our liquid material from, they've been great to work with. Don't get me wrong, but they have their own supply chain problems, and it's been 2021 has been a supply chain problem for almost every industry, right? People can't find workers, they can't find whatever. The worker part isn't really so much of an issue for us. It's really just,
The materials.
is Parker going to have the correct material to do the job, from week to week? And that has been a struggle. Now, it hasn't affected any of our customers. We've been able to insulate that, but Parker, how have we been able to do that? We're actually doing it tonight for one of our other offices, right?
Yeah, I mean, we just put a shitload of product on our floor. I had a guy arguing with me when I was selling him a floor. He's like, "Well, this gutter company, they pushed me out, 6 months." I'm like, "Sir, I have the product to install your floor. Like, do you want me to do it tonight? Like, I have it. I will come do it tonight. Like, I have the product." So that's kind of how we get around that.
Well, and also because of our proximity to each location, right? So, starting at our very northern point with Legacy up in Neenah. They have a warehouse there, and then it kind of branches down to Milwaukee and Madison. And then those guys are about 2.5 hours apart from each other, roughly. And then we come down to Lena and Waukegan, and then we go down to Quad Cities and Bloomington. And what you see is just this network and distribution channel of material that if he runs out, we can go get it from somewhere else.
Each other out. Yep.
Yeah, where you can't do that is Austin, Texas.
That's very true. You can, but you and Tyler would have to drive cross country again, and that wasn't that fun.
Like when we went to Arizona.
Yeah.
Well, so that's the thing. You're not ordering for, you're not keeping enough in stock for 2 weeks. Like in Arizona, I have enough material on the floor in Arizona to basically last those guys until September.
Wow. You have to, though, kind of, because they don't have anyone close to them, really, right?
Well, and shipping from here is a week.
Oh, yeah.
So if we ship Monday, they'll maybe get it the following Monday. So that's tough, getting across. So I think Parker's, generally making the smart decision in saying it's not the best to jump down to Texas, especially with the issues that are happening right now. But also, I think it's a smart idea from a marketing standpoint. Now, being a marketing man yourself, why do you think it's smart from a marketing standpoint?
To be local?
Well, to be closer to our home base.
If you're closer to the home base, you can utilize a lot of the same creative that's already going out. You have access to the call center that's nearby, all of that centralized support that's right here. You can benefit directly from that. And yeah.
So we talked about 4 locations. What were they?
Quad Cities, Lena, Bloomington.
No, stop.
Rewind.
Waukegan.
Take that. Rewind it back.
No, where you can go.
Yeah.
From here.
Indy, St. Louis, Rochester, Des Moines.
Des Moines, right? So
I've been hearing a lot of buzz about Rochester. We can get into that later, but yeah.
Rochester, Minnesota.
Yeah, Rochester, Minnesota. Everybody's talking about that.
It's way up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the highest ones on your list.
let's talk about what are the pluses and minuses, right?
Yeah.
So Rochester has a lot of pluses to it, because they have the Dream Center going in. I think it's like a Mayo Clinic thing. The area is pretty booming. It's just outside of the Twin Cities, so if young guy like Parker wants to go in and have some fun, he's an hour away, right? He's also an hour away from La Crosse, maybe an hour and a half.
Got a few buddies in Lax.
Yeah.
Yeah, he even has a code for it. Lax.
LAX.
That's what the college kids call it. I wouldn't know because I grew up. So
Yeah. Not yet. We're to be determined.
Yeah, to be
I
determined.
mopped my floors the other day. I grew up.
Yeah. So there's a lot of positives to it. I mean, what would be a negative? It's freezing in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So one of the things that Parker and I have talked about has played a big factor in where his potential landing spot is weather, which is why he really wanted to go further south. But I think we can subvert some of those colder temperatures by utilizing a place like even St. Louis, right? I mean, when it was minus 30 degrees here, it wasn't minus 30 degrees in St. Louis.
Yeah. Yeah. So out of these options, what has been the most appealing to you out of the four?
I think we had the conversation like literally like a week and a half ago. So none of them have been like, hit and rattle off one. And it was like, oh yeah, that's the one. But I think, a few of them, my sister actually lives in Indy. So that's kind of appealing to me. She knows a lot of people there. Rochester was a great place. I got buddies in Lax. It's a booming industry. Like you said, I've been to Minneapolis, great city. And St. Louis would definitely not be bad too when it's negative 30 here. Like you said, it's probably 30 degrees there, and nothing is worse than installing floors in negative weather. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that should be a huge factor to consider is the things that you can't control. So is it disappointing to you that Texas didn't work out, or is it just kind of eye-opening and you're like, all right, that's not what I thought it was, let's move on to the next thing? Or are you just ready to go back to college?
I was never, oblivious to the fact that Texas was, it was never, it would be awesome to live in Austin, Texas, but at the same time, it's like, if I run out of product, how am I going to get more product? Because I'm not driving 15 hours, I'll tell you that. So it was,
if I run out of product or if I need help.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
that's the part for me that was worrying me, is that, for him to go to Austin, by himself, it's different, and I think a lot of people have said to me over this last time, they're like, well, I mean, how is that different than Arizona? Well, it's real different. Mm-hmm. Kevin Oppold has 4 years of experience doing floors, and he's got, damn near 1 million square feet of flooring under him. Not that Parker doesn't know what he's doing, but Parker don't have anywhere close to 1 million square feet, nor has he done a lot of repairs or anything like that.
Like the different issues that could pop up. He hasn't had as much experience.
So it's a huge difference, right? Whenever you look at going out to do that, and potentially having somebody to help.
Sure. Yeah.
So Kevin's already, they've already got 2 crews there. Parker's literally going to start with Parker.
Yeah, exactly. So what's our timeline looking like? I know, when we started the show, we said we were going to be following the story of Parker McGee for a year, and it's almost been a year. But that year that we chose was 2020, and it was a little bit of a roller coaster. So I'm sure people are starting to get antsy and starting to wonder, like, is the show just going to go on forever and we're never going to know what happens to Parker? Up? Yeah, will Parker ever grow up?
Well, I think that, I've thought about that too myself. I'm like, are we ever going to get to the point where Parker is on his own? But the reality is that Parker is on his own. He already has been, right? He's been in Madison. He took a office that was literally a warehouse of nothing and turned it into a. By the way, let's talk about how was it going from 1 crew to 3 crews almost overnight?
It was, tough at first, but I'm very, detailed, organized, and we've got a lot of great, crew members, which helped out. Not all the locations are that lucky. I feel like we already have, we've been up there from the span of 1 truck and trailer to 3. It's been like a month and a half, 2, and half the guys are, not veterans, but out here acting like they, they've been there for 6 months, which is,
that's huge,
which helped me a lot. Could be the teacher, but no, the guys were, super great. They show up every day.
Shots fired at Sean Cap.
Yeah. Wow.
Which should be, which is important too, that they show up, obviously. But they've been doing great work too, so that helps.
So 3. So you're running 3. Yeah, I mean, that's no small accomplishment. He went from laying floors with Wink, E-Mark not believing in him, to taking a business in Madison from 1 to 3 trailers in a month. How is that? How much of that was Parker really responsible for? All of it, 70% of it?
Well, there's one of the beautiful things about having co-owned locations rather than like franchises or something like that is that when you have a co-owned location, I was actually talking to a guy about this right before we came here because he was like, yeah, there's a lot of like startups in this industry, like about, that they just want to do like franchises of coatings companies and things of that nature. And I go, yeah, that's okay. I go, it's really not something I'd ever be interested in. And he's like, well, why? And I said, well, for the same reason we're talking about right now. And that's that, Parker didn't necessarily grow it on his own. He was told this is what's happening, so it's not that he didn't do a good job, and
He had to execute on that though still, right?
yeah, there's an execution that he was required to do, which he did, but probably unbeknownst to him, like when we stuck you in sales, that was for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Why did we do that?
So we could book out for 3 trucks and trailers.
So I could book out for 3 trucks and trailers. And then as soon as we got to the point where I think that Taylor and maybe some help from the Lena guys can sustain the 3 crews that you have there, which they have, right?
Yeah.
You're booked out until when?
Middle of or end of September.
So once they do that, then I flipped him back to production to help build that back, right?
Okay.
So when you have a co-owned location, you don't get to make as many, decisions as you'd like to think. But we're also forcing a lot of growth from here.
I think that's actually beneficial to the co-owner as well, because like they don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like you're telling them this is what we do because it works, not because we're just trying to, twist your arm. Like we're trying to make this work because it's beneficial for both of us. So I actually think that's a positive thing. Yeah. That's
well,
huge.
they have to focus on you focus on 2 things every single day, right? Sales and installs.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have to worry about anything else.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Do you so what's your day-to-day looking like now? You're doing a lot of production?
It can be a lot of different stuff. It can be, me waking up to 4 phone calls of people not showing up, and then, juggling how we're going to do 3 installs with only 4 guys, or, we've had that happen. Yes.
Oh.
Me running self-gens after work, me, filling in if Taylor was potentially sick, or, there's just a lot of different stuff. It's literally, you fill in wherever you see fit.
Yeah. So when a while back you asked me, you're like, yeah, Jeff, what does your day-to-day look like? I'm like, I put my fireman suit on, I get in my fire truck, and I go and put out whatever the fire is, and it's, I think what you find as you start to get into management and leading people and that kind of thing, you're very reactionary at first. And then, someday the goal is to get it so that, Parker's probably a little bit more proactive than reactive, because it's not fun to be reacting to all these issues all the time.
No, not at all.
I almost kind of like seeing how big the fire can get before I can put it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really? He's like, I'll wait till one more guy calls off before I do anything about it.
Before I'm basically just doing the floor myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that the personnel is always such a problem. But again, you combine, personnel, supply chain issues, can we get this? Is the shipment coming on time? Whatever the case is. And you put all of that together, and now all of a sudden you have this perfect shitstorm, that you're trying to deal with. Oh, and by the way, we're trying to make sure that John and Mary customer never know about any of these hardships that you deal with as a business. Because if I'm a consumer, which I am, I would be like, yeah, that's great. And I don't really, it's not my problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like my problem on this project is paying you. Everything else in between there is ancillary. So I think we've done a good job of making sure that, our customers across the board at all TSR locations don't even know or experience the issues that we deal with.
I had one question a little bit off this topic, but do smaller concrete coating companies that are maybe just running 1 truck and trailer, 2 truck and trailers, and they're not really trying to maybe grow to the scale that TSR is growing, do they have supply chain issues, or is it just...
Yeah, they have a different kind of supply chain issue, though. So where we might be juggling material back and forth between locations, we at least have it.
Mm-hmm. True.
Right? where the hardest growth that we ever had, and probably actually the hardest growth that Parker experienced, since he's been here, was to go from 1 truck and trailer to 2. Like, that wasn't easy for you, was it?
No, it's just very different. I was set in a plan for, however long it was, 4 months, just seeing the same material go off the shelf. And then it's like, where'd the material go?
Oh, really?
Because it's just, you're not experiencing that. And especially when we got to 3 trucks and trailers, you're like, okay, now really where did the material go?
True.
Yeah. Well, he's like, come in. There's nothing here. I'm like, yeah, Parker, you're using it at 300% more than you were using before. So
That's true.
so that's part of it. But does smaller companies have that? Yeah, they just have a different type. They have which they really got hit hard about a month ago when the flake manufacturer said, hey, we're only going to be producing these 10 colors. And by the way, your allocation is down to nothing. Now, thankfully, we had over 3,500 boxes of flake in stock between all of our locations, right? We carry more boxes of flake at our company, TSR, than many, many, many distributors carry on hand, which is kind of appalling when you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
Like, you're a distributor and you have 500 boxes of flake. Like, you're not a distributor. You're a guy with a warehouse. Like,
Yep.
So
Yeah, their problem is, like the smaller company, their problem is probably more like
they're
may not
just
have,
in time.
and
That's
they
what
may not have the capital to order more than enough. They're like cash flowing it, so they have to order when the job's booked and just in time. Yeah,
They don't have 30 pallets sitting in the back of their warehouse. I'll tell you that, like TSR does.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and we've now, thankfully, and it didn't feel thankfully at the time. But last year when we were experiencing some of these shortages and things like that, we actually went into 2021 and we said, we're not going to have this again. Like, we're going to take our flake count from 20 to 40.
Oh, wow.
So we doubled our inventory that we had at every location. Do you know how expensive it is to have 18 colors at 40 boxes each times 8 locations?
It's a lot expensive.
It's a lot expensive, right? and then you add, the liquid into that. But we made that capital investment into our business to make sure that we didn't have these issues anymore. And now, again, we were way better insulated from it than everybody else.
Yep.
But as soon as they came out with it, you could see on the Facebook forums that we're all a part of that, like, hey, does anybody have a 40-pound box of Domino? I'm like, how do you not have 1 box of Domino? They said on Friday that they were going to have this shortage and Domino was one of the colors you could order. And on Monday, you're saying that you don't have any. Like,
You already didn't have any. Yeah. Paycheck to paycheck right there. Yep.
yeah, I mean, that's the
scary.
epitome of it. And so I think it probably affected our smaller competitors in every location probably pretty hard.
Yeah.
Because we were getting customers actually that had chose to go with somebody else that were calling us and they're like, hey, so-and-so says they can't get me the color. Like, I want to go with you guys.
I guess that's a good position to be in. Not for the small companies. Sorry, guys. But yeah.
Well, I just told them no.
Oh, really?
Stick with that guy.
Wow. Yeah, kind of trail back onto train of thought that I so nicely took us off of. What is the timeline for Parker?
I think by September he needs to be selling where he's at.
So in the Madison location again, because I've asked Parker a few times, like, why can't you just run the Madison location forever? But the reason is because it's too close to here and it's just kind of the same location. Is that what that is? Or
yeah, so we share a lot of Lena's unique, right? Like, there's nothing here.
yeah.
So we have Rockford, we have Freeport. I mean, but truthfully, when you compare Rockford and Freeport to Madison, it's just really not a comparison. From our customer base size, like, it's probably 50-50 for us.
Wow.
So that's part of the decision that, me and Tyler own Madison, we own Lena, we own Quad Cities. And so the next logical step for Parker would be that, yeah, would I love to keep him there? Absolutely. Is Parker going to want to stay there? No. He wants to own his piece of whatever the pie is. So.
Do you still want to own a piece of the pie, Parker?
Yes.
Does that keep you up at night? Like,
No,
is
but
this a good decision? Is it not? Is it the right decision for me? And I mean, you can be honest. It's just Jeff here in the room. Like,
I've been waiting a year. I'm ready.
You're ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm ready. I've been ready. 6 months ago, we could have went.
You got this 21-year-old kid. He's like, listen, man, I've been waiting an entire year.
yeah. It's like a year's a long time.
No, I always tell Jeff, though, it's like I'm very, the next step. It's like, all right, I did sales like for a month. Like,
I'm a pro already. Can I move on?
What's next?
Like, what is next? And he needs to be in his location, starting to build it. Doesn't necessarily mean that he has to have a warehouse right away, right? I mean, obviously you have to have a place to live, and we could start there.
Right.
Apartment. So once he decides on where he's at, my opinion is that he would probably even stay in like an extended stay place. That's what we did with Kevin, because I think that no different than him going to Austin, like you don't really know the area. Like if you're not from there, if you don't have people there, like maybe his sister, if Indy is the spot, his sister can help him. But like, it would kind of be like if you move to Rockford and you're kind of close to State Street and, there are some nice pockets, right? But then you're like,
I think I'm going to go grab a sandwich.
Yeah, I'm going to grab a sandwich. Oh my gosh. Now I'm at a Euro stand in the hood. Like,
Best year I've ever had, but still I'm scared.
Yeah. So you don't really know the area, right?
True.
So
that's true.
And, like there's parts of St. Louis, like East St. Louis, like don't go there, Parker. It's
We'll be sure not to.
It's a tough neighborhood, right? So I want him to know where he's at before he picks a living situation. I also would like to make sure that no different than we did with Madison, like I made sure that where I put him right next to his warehouse, and I made sure it was a safe location. It was a nice place to live. Yep. And then I put him right next to the warehouse. He's, if he was strong enough, which he's not, he could throw a baseball and hit his shop.
Like 30 times, I'd maybe still hit it.
You could definitely golf and hit it. Definitely off your balcony.
3 swings.
Yeah. Yep.
Is it 900 yards?
Yeah. You think Cap, the way Cap drives, let's just put it, it's like a 15-second drive.
That's awesome. So, man, it looks different than I had maybe pictured when we first started recording the show, because actually I was producing the show. I was literally just recording the show. That's all I was doing. And I didn't actually know what the show was about until Parker walked in the room, and Alex Mark was hosting the show with E-Mark, and Alex had to take a call and just never came back.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I got to take this. And that's kind of the story of our lives sometimes. Trying to record with Alex he's a busy guy, and it's fine. But I just think it's like your dad who had to run and grab milk and just never came back. Like that's
Is that the type of father you're going to be, Alex?
No,
come back to the show.
Yeah. We love you, Alex. We know you're busy and you're probably still on that phone call, but it's a lot different than I was anticipating. I'm like, okay, when I first met Parker, I'm like, this kid does seem like he is driven, like nobody's really telling him to do this. So my bet was that he would take it all the way, because nobody's telling him to do that. And a lot of times people ask, like, where do leaders come from? And the coolest thing I've ever heard about where leaders come from is they just emerge. Like, leaders just emerge. Nobody tells them you're a leader. Like, go be a leader today. It's like, you're just, all right, nobody's doing it, so I'm going to do it myself. Nobody's taking charge of this, so I'm going to take charge of it myself. And I noticed Parker seemed to have that about him. He's like, I'll just do it. And seeing you move from every stage to where we're at now, it's been slow because we've been talking about it every 2 weeks. So it's like, for me, it looks like maybe we've been watching paint dry a little bit. But if you think about it, in 1 year, going from nothing to, not that you were nothing a year ago, but going from, nothing inside of TSR.
Obscurity.
Yeah. Going from obscurity inside of TSR to where you're at now, running 3 trailers. And you're like, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to launch out and move on. And seeing you stick with it, seeing you stick with your decision to not go back to college, it is it's very encouraging, and it shows the viewers and it shows the people that, because there are a lot of people that talk about this show. It's obviously not huge. It's not getting millions of views every single week like you hoped it would. But there are a lot of people that talk about the show every time I come here. Like I was talking to Jordan out here earlier today, and he's like, yeah, I watched, he was talking about a specific point from 2 episodes ago. And I'll run into people and they'll talk about specific points. And like, if this show impacts your life, which it has, impacts my life, which it has, impacts David's life, which it has, impacts Jeff's life, which I think it has. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't continue to keep doing it, and impacts anybody else's life listening. I think that this journey and documenting it was as worth it as Jeff had said from the beginning. He's like, Jeff was like, he literally sat me down. He's like, Joey, not everything is about just making money. He's like, a lot of times it's about the process and documenting it. And he's like, honestly, I wish we would have documented the process with Josh. And he's like, and we didn't. So now we're doing it with Parker.
Which, by the way, shout out to Josh. I don't think Josh gets enough credit, and he took an absolute beating for his first 18 months of owning his own location. So you have that to look forward to.
You look tired, Parker.
But Josh currently, in my opinion, has the best location.
Really?
In TSR, he has I would say and it wasn't always this way.
Right.
He has the lowest amount of callbacks of any location, which is, production related, right? So his production team is fantastic. He also has a very unique culture where they're all like, everything's bought in, everybody's drinking the same Kool-Aid, they're all like rah-rah on each other all the time. Like, so that is interesting. He has the salesman of the year from last year on his team.
Oh wow!
Now Garrett, Zach Custer's probably going to take your spot, so you might want to pick the pace up. But so he's just really built over the last 2 years essentially, because it was 2019. So this would be 2 full years for him. He's really built something that I think he should be very, very proud of.
Wow.
And it wasn't easy. Like, it really wasn't until about 5 or 6 months ago that like everything just kind of started to come together, and he learned a lot of things too. Like, his shop was too small, so he learned that, oh shit, now I have to move like this. Like, he grew too fast. So that's one of the reasons you were looking at the type of warehouses you were looking, because we learned between Quad Cities and Josh and Derek that we can't have small warehouses to get started. We grow too fast. But the impact of the show, like, I think I'd also like to give a shout out to ATM Detailing. Andre, he came over and he was detailing my cars the other day, and this kid, I was like, hey, can you do the other one, the third one on Friday, I think I said. And he's like, man, it's like, I'd love to, but I got to work at Walmart. Yeah, that was my reaction. So keep in mind, this kid's charging me like $300 to detail my car, which is whatever. He does a great job.
Yep.
And I'm like, wait a minute.
Why aren't you just detailing more cars instead of working?
That's exactly what I said. I go, why? Did you just tell me that you're not going to detail the car on Friday because you're going to go to Walmart and make $15 an hour for 8 hours?
Yes, that's what I told you, Jeff.
I was like, get your calculator out. I need you to do the math for me so that it makes sense to me.
But it's a steady job, Jeff. It's
So guess who recently quit their job at Walmart?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he quit his job, and he's going all in on his detailing business. And he's like, well, I watch the show and I see what Parker's doing and what you guys are doing. And I was like, dude, there's so many more stories I could tell you. I go, but if you do not quit your job, I'm not going to bring my car to you anymore.
That's that'll light a fire under you, but
no, I didn't say the last part, but in my head, I was thinking it. I'm like, if you're going to continue to work at Walmart.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, that's awesome. That's very encouraging. So listeners, thank you guys so much for sticking with us this far. I think we've got a few more episodes left before we actually close down the story of Parker, I would imagine.
We don't know what's next.
We don't know.
Like,
yeah.
so we haven't decided like on what's next, but I'm kind of thinking that maybe we should follow the story of Joseph Nagel and
No
his
way.
Yeah, why don't we follow the story of Joey as he leads our new marketing company to victory?
Wow.
Did you even think about it?
No, I did not. I have been thinking about the Home Improvement Marketing Podcast because we already have it started. But no, I mean, that would be an honor. Like literally coming from recording the episode, and Alex was like, "Hey, you free to record an episode for Jeff Gear tomorrow?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll be there."
But it's funny because we've had some like very spirited conversations, Joey.
Yes.
And I'm like I try not to be an asshole in our meetings for our home improvement marketing, but I sometimes can't help it. I'm like, guys, it's literally like me and Alex are not driving the bus. You will drive the bus, Joey. Kevin.
Yes.
And then Bob's over here like chattering in my ear.
He's coding.
Yeah, Bob's over here coding websites.
No, it's that's something you guys obviously don't know anything about, but I think that's very interesting. I think that's something we should do because that's going to be a very cool story. It already is a cool story, and yeah, I think that'll be great.
I think it's been challenging. So did I even tell you what we were doing?
Yeah, well, Joey did.
Yeah. So the hard part about it is that there's 5 owners.
Equal share.
Yeah. And with nobody has like that extra 1% to say, no, this is the way that it's going to be. It's been very like, I don't want to say comical because I've been irritated a few times, but
yeah, it's been it's been interesting. It's been interesting, but you're right. On paper, this is the freaking Avengers right here. Like everybody has their skill set. Everybody does work well together. And there's been communication, but I did, we're getting a little bit into some details you guys might want to know about, so we may cut this part out of the episode.
It's a preview.
Okay, all right. Here's a preview. Here's the preview to the new spin-off show that's going to be coming out. But yeah, I've been writing up. I'm like, I literally was, because I called Jeff, and honestly, I mean, everybody was on the call, but I'm honestly like, look, if this is the way this business is going to be run, and it wasn't really anyone in particular, it was just like everyone in particular. And I'm not even excluding myself from that. I'm just like, if this is the way we're all communicating from day one, how's it going to be in a year? Like once we've all signed the contract and everything's done and set up. And I literally was like, I was thinking this weekend I might want to be out. And there were some things that were going on and some communication issues. And I was very happy that Jeff actually did call me after that meeting. And I'm like, who's calling me from this 479 number? He's like, hey, Joey, Jeff calling from Ring Central. I'm like,
I had him on the old Ring Central line.
I know he's wearing his headset with his 3 monitors. But no, it was very encouraging. Jeff's like, look, you have to learn how to work with different people and the people that we're putting together. He said, on paper, this is a great company and a great team. And I'm like, I know Jeff doesn't need another business. Like he doesn't need another business. Alex doesn't need another business. They don't have to do this. And so I know there's opportunity in it for them as well. But at the same time, when Jeff looks across the table and he's like, you're going to kick yourself if you don't become a part of this. He was like, you don't have to become a part of it, but you're going to kick yourself if you don't. I'm like, I better listen to that advice. And
I didn't say it was going to be easy.
Yeah, no, and it's not. It's actually pretty monumental transitioning. Like I'm currently developing an operating agreement. I'm transitioning all these contracts over from what we have now to one bank account, working with the CPA, like doing things I've never done before. I love it, actually. I'm finding out like this is what I like to do. I like that we're advancing something and moving it forward. And I actually haven't presented this to everybody yet, but I had a meeting with Kevin yesterday and I wrote out a business plan. I just wrote out the whole thing. I'm like, we need to define all of this. Here's how much we're charging. We can't make less than this on each project. And Kevin loved it. He's like, I love seeing stuff like this. And I'm like, we need, obviously everyone's equal partners, but we need someone who's doing the job of a CEO, of pushing things forward in the overview picture. And we need a job of a COO who's making sure the processes and the integrations and everything inside are operating smoothly and are continuing to move. And Jeff and Alex clearly do not want to be those people, and they don't want to drive the bus. So I'm like, Kevin, we need to figure out who these two people are.
I think that leaves you two.
Yeah, it does. So we decided together that we both respectively lean into one of those positions more than the other. And he really likes operations. And he's like, this is the way I'm leaning. And he actually said, I think you should be the CEO. And obviously that doesn't mean I have complete control or anything, but it's the principle of like, we need to move this company forward. And so I went from on the weekend, I literally was like, I'm either going to not be in this thing or I'm going to be 100% in this thing. And after the phone call with Jeff, and I want to be 100% in it because it's a phenomenal opportunity. We already have clients. The company is already starting off in existence in a great position. And, it's going to be a really fun ride. We have a lot of really cool things in store. Stuff going on this week, a meeting tomorrow with a potential new client. It's going to be really,
But you know
really
what's
freaking
hilarious
fun
about
stuff.
this, Parker? All of the problems that he was saying that he's experiencing, that's all shit that you never have to worry about because I do it all for you. So you're welcome.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome, Parker.
And you know what's funny is it's all things to me because I've done it so many times that in my head, I'm thinking like, hey, this is like a really simple task, right? Like why? Like
Yep.
when I blew you guys up on Saturday, I'm like, this is all shit I would have had done. Like I've been waiting for you guys to do this, and it hasn't gotten done. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, you know, but it goes to your point is, you know, who is the guy driving the bus? Who is the CEO? Who is the president who's saying yes, yes, and no? And traditionally, that's been Alex and I.
Mhm.
And
you guys are used to that. So,
Yeah.
and we're used to you being that. So it has been a little bit hard.
I know. I could tell. Like somebody was sitting. You guys were kind of sitting around waiting. Hey, what's the order? What's
That's
the
true.
mission, boss? You know.
That's true. And it was good to hear that you're like, the mission is you need to come up with the mission. Like, and then, yeah.
Yeah, and then, but you know what's crazy is that after, like, we had a very, we'll call it spirited conference call, and then, but like after that though, like, phenomenal change.
Yes.
You know? So
It was a great conversation to have. And we'll get more into that in our future episodes of when Joey grows up. We'll think of a new name.
no, I think that when I grow up, the Joey Nagel edition is not a bad because
Season 2.
It is a grow up, right? It's
Yeah.
a grow up for you.
It is.
You're doing things that you've never done
Never.
before. But I think what's more important for you, Joey, is that you're accountable to somebody more than yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's a lot
For
of
other shareholders. Yep.
well shareholders, but then now you also have clients too. That,
Oh, yeah, of
you know, you're
course.
trying to appease, and I'm actually one of your clients.
Yep. And
a
Alex,
shareholder. I told them in the meeting. What did I say about me as a client?
like, I'm going to be the worst client you guys ever had if you don't get stuff done when it's supposed to be done. And we're like, well, it was actually radio silence, but then, yeah. And
I counted to like 10 in my head, and nobody said anything, and they're like, "Shit."
mhm. And I think I understand where you're coming from with that. It's like you have a high standard, and it's actually good to be working for and being partners with people that have the highest standards possible, because that's going to keep us sharp and keep us ahead. And we're already starting off on that foot. So anything else we're providing for any other client who aren't going to be as upset, it's weight training. We're running with the weight, you know, and then when we hit a client, we're going to be able to grow so much faster and go so much further than we ever have or ever thought was possible. So I think there's a lot of benefits, and you guys have been there, and that's what I said when Jeff called me. I actually really, really appreciated when you called me, because I literally said, I'm like, I know you took the time out of your day to call me, and you absolutely don't have to call me.
I was trying to save you from jumping off the bridge.
But it was huge because I'm like, okay, this guy actually cares about me personally as a human being. And I knew you did, and I know you are that way with a lot of people. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a show like this about another individual who you didn't, again, have to give a chance to. But that was huge, and it was also huge. The reason I do feel confident moving forward is because I'm one phone call away from you and Alex, who have done it. I may not feel as comfortable if it was just me and Kevin and Bob trying to do this by ourselves. I love you all, Kevin and Bob, but really, we're learning brand new things that we've never done before. So
Well, yeah, it's you guys are. I know, like you said, we're all the Avengers on paper.
Yep.
You know, and I don't know if you saw the first couple Avenger movies, but they didn't work so well together.
But then they got better and destroyed Thanos.
All right, let's wrap it up.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching thus far. We have a few more episodes of season 1. Parker McGee grows up. It's been a phenomenal journey so far. You guys have stuck with us. A lot of you guys have stuck with us, and I'm glad that there's been impacted people and stories that we've been able to hear and see over this 1 year of David, of, what did you say, Andre, other people I've talked to as well.
Yourself.
Parker, myself. There's been a lot of impact that's been going on in this show, so I absolutely encourage you, if you're just watching this episode and you haven't seen the whole thing, watch the whole thing. Watch the entire series, because you're going to see somebody actually growing up. You can envision yourself being that person, seeing yourself starting from really nothing to working your way into an opportunity that you could have never imagined achieving in 1 year. And this has been another episode of When I Grow Up. And we will see you all on the next episode.